All right, welcome everyone to the Ultra Life podcast. I'm so excited tonight. I have my guest here, Bobby Campos. We met through both being BPN ambassadors as of this year, so representing Bare Performance Nutrition. And I'm so excited that we got to connect because Bobby has some incredible stories about what's possible, and we'll dig into all that. So, Bobby, thanks for being here and sharing on the show tonight.
No, thank you. I appreciate you for having me on. Definitely excited for this one.
Awesome, awesome. So, Bobby is a hybrid athlete and he focuses on weightlifting, triathlons, and ultra running, but it has not always looked like that. So, take us back, Bobby. I call this your sweat story to kind of go back when, how did you even start getting into fitness and working out, from the very beginning, wherever that is for you?
Yeah, I love that sweat story. I might have to borrow
Yeah.
that. um, so yeah, growing up, I was never a in shape person. I was always kind of the chubby, slow kid. Gym class, you have to run the 1 mile, and it just dreaded it. Played sports, but it wasn't like very anything really serious. When I got into high school, a couple friends dragged me into the weight room just as something to do after school, and through that, then they dragged me into joining a football team. So did that my sophomore year, and that's kind of where my whole fitness journey started. It was just I was weightlifting in order to be able to play football, and did that through all of high school. Then going into college, I actually end of my high school year broke my back snowboarding.
Woof.
Um, yeah, being stupid, went off a jump that was just a little bit above what I should have been going off of, broke my back. And then that kind of sent me down a spiral of just weight gain, getting super out of shape, not taking care of myself, typical college kid, just eating fast food and not doing anything good for my body. Then finally got to a point where I was just not happy with how I was feeling and decided that I needed to do something to kind of get back in shape. And full dived into just how to change my eating habits, how to change my workout routine, and take kind of what I had from high school and in the weight room and football and kind of translate that into okay, how can I use this to help myself get healthier? Um, Kind of fell into that bodybuilding, I guess, type of style of just, eating 6 meals a day and, working out for aesthetics, things like that. Really loved it and still to this day do enjoy that type of style of working out. Um, and did that for a while. Then it was as I started to get a little bit older, I had a period of point in my life I was not sure what I wanted to do in terms of my career. Had a girl I was dating at the time who was getting transferred to a job out of state, and just overall, just kind of fell into a depression because I was just not happy with my life and honestly had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, and kind of started to slowly spiral back towards just not taking care of myself again. Um, Not sure if you've ever heard of Charlie Engle.
I don't think I have. Yeah, so share about him.
So there's a documentary. I highly suggest everybody try to find this. I'm not sure where you could find it, but definitely search for it. It's called Running the Sahara. And Charlie and two other guys run from one end of Africa to the other end through the entire Sahara Desert. It's like 111 days doing like 2 marathons a day. Insane. Absolutely insane. Um, so one of my friends that knew I was kind of going through a rough time in my life saw that movie and thought it would be something just to inspire you to work towards something, like the whole idea of setting a goal and pursuing it. So I watched
Yeah.
that movie, thought it was awesome, really cool, but didn't really change much for me except for the fact that I was like, I'm still not where I want to be. I don't know where my next goal is, but this was cool. Um, then Charlie came out with a book called Running Man, which really more dived into his whole story of drug addiction, um, and just his life and how he kind of turned it around. And I was sitting on the couch one night reading this book, and it's like torrential downpour outside. I'll never forget this day because this was like the pivotal moment of what changed my fitness life. I'm reading it, and he just talks about how therapeutic running was for him. And me having probably never ran, I want to say over 2 miles at the time, was reading it at first, and I'm like, you know what? Things aren't working the way I want right now. What do I got? What do I got to lose? Might as well let's try this running thing out. So I laced up a pair of like old Asics shoes that I had. Went outside. It was downpouring and I had no plan. I just decided I'm going to go out. I'm going to run. Next thing you know, in the pouring rain, I just kept going and ended up running 7 miles,
Huh?
which for me at the time was like mind boggling. But I just kind of, I guess I just fell into that, cliche. Everybody says runner's high. And I just kept pushing myself. And from that moment on, I was like, I exactly see why everybody loves running. And it just opened my eyes up to, I could probably do a lot more than I think I could do if I actually just try. And that
Yeah.
was that first experience I had kind of doing that.
I'm curious, like timeline wise, I like to sometimes give timelines for folks because it's like puts it more into perspective too. So like from you kind of started getting into the bodybuilding thing from like that time, then things kind of went downhill for a little bit to then get back. Was that like a couple years? Was that like 5 years? What did that look like?
So the point of, I guess, the bodybuilding stuff to like this day was, I mean, the bodybuilding stuff was probably 20, I want to say like 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then the actual point of me like starting running was like 2016, 2017.
Okay, so like from that bodybuilding time to like when you ran this like 7 miles, that was like a good 6 years or so.
Yeah, it was a while, definitely a while.
Yeah. And and I just like to share that too. So it's like people can see like I think especially in life where we're like it goes in seasons. It really does. And we all like just the way our human brains work and it wouldn't it be comfortable and nice if things were just so linear and like life was just, great year after year. But that's just not the way it works. Like we're going to have ups, we're going to have downs. Shit's not going to work. It's going to be amazing. And it's just good. I love that you shared that so we can see that full journey of like yeah, I got into it and like was good, going good with like getting into the bodybuilding and feeling good. And yet, then there is still can be a season of life where we just go down and you're not doing the things. And then you can come back up and even find something new and fresh that you never maybe even would have thought in your life you would do. And then
Yeah,
here you find yourself running 7 miles. So
yeah,
it's just so cool to see that progression. And some people, maybe that's a year or two, some people that's 6 years, some people that might be 20 years. But like to just like know it's a journey. So that's like so great to like put that into perspective. Um, I'm curious too, like when you did that run, when you read that and had never run more than a couple miles, you go out for this run in the rain. You had said something about that running man, like how Charlie felt it was like this therapeutic thing for him.
hmm
Did you feel that when you went for that first run? Was that more than just like the challenge of the physicality of it, which can be kind of adrenaline rushing? But I do feel like, and I think most runners, we, feel like there's a component of therapy to it. So did you feel that in that first run? And tell us about that.
100%. I think partly I think because of the challenge, I felt in my mind I had to focus on what I was doing. Like everything that was going on in my outside life where I hated my job, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life career wise, like the girl I was dating, like moving, all those things just like kind of evaporated and it brought me so much into that present moment. And I think that was one of the first times in my life I found the importance of being in the present moment and how much like clarity it brings you to what's going on in your life. So that was probably what kept me going, I want to say. Like at some point it was the challenge. It was me trying to see like, oh, can I keep pushing myself further and further? But I think the feeling of just mental clarity of like nothing else matters right now except me putting one foot in front of the other and continuing to move forward was extremely therapeutic for me. Definitely.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. I feel like once you have that feeling and you know that, oh my God, I like solve world problems. For
So true.
my world problems.
100%.
When I go for runs, it's like whatever is going on in life that I'm like, frustrated with, stressed, sad, upset about. I mean, I can go for a workout or run, and it might not mean I'm like some unicorn and I'm like, "Oh my god, my life's amazing." But I will feel at least a little bit better, if not have solved the problem in my brain during the
Hmm.
run, like giving myself therapy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My wife will say to me sometimes, like if I go through a period of time where like things are crazy with us and maybe I'm not getting to like work out or run as much, like there's times where she'll just look at me and she's like, just drop everything and like go to the gym, go run, like do something because it's like I could tell you need it. So like
Right.
it's just you could just see it sometimes like you just need that little bit. Like you said, it doesn't solve everything all the time, but just taking that edge off a lot of
Yeah.
times just puts you in a little bit better perspective on things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of it for our mental health. Okay, so you got your first run in.
Yep.
And so tell us now, take us from that journey to where you are now and what you've kind of like what you've accomplished now, and then we'll probably go back through and poke at each of those.
Okay. Um, well, I think from there, I just kind of decided, all right, I want to see what I can do at running. I want to try to get faster. I want to, try to push distance a little bit. But I mean, I had no coach. I had no plan. I would go out and looking back on it now, it's kind of funny because having had coaches and having learned a lot about this, I would just go out and say, I'm going to run 3 miles as hard as I possibly can. And I was just doing that a couple times a week and expecting that was going to, make me this excellent runner. Uh, so I was starting to do that, starting to just enjoy running. Um, I did a 10K. I think one 10K I did. And it was just more of a fun run. A couple of my friends were doing it, so decided to do it. And that was really it. Running just became something I did from just a therapeutic side and also just a health side, going out for a few miles. Then one day, this was like kind of my next milestone. I decided that I was going to go for a run on a track. And I was with a friend. We started running. I think we did like 1 or 2 miles. And I don't know what possessed me to do this. I can't really remember, but decided I was going to run 10 miles that day because for some reason all right, this is something that I think is kind of out of my reach, but I think I could also do it.
Mm.
And my friend encouraged me, and I ran 10 miles around a track, which I don't even think I would do that to this day because it's just so brutal. um, and then that was the point where the distance kind of started to become a draw to me because in the beginning it was just I was running 3, 4, 5 miles. I was trying to run faster, and then that day it was like, all right, well, maybe how far can I run? If I was able to do this 10 miles, where can I take it from there? So continued to just run like that anywhere between, I would say, a 5K to 10 miles. And another book, David Goggins' book. So I sit down and I read that, and it just fired me up so much to the point where I was really questioning what I was capable of. Throughout my whole life, not my whole life, but I would say like my earlier years, the whole idea of triathlons just was very interesting to me. I'm from Long Island, New York. We have water around us, surf, and kind of we're in the water all the time. Swimming was kind of interesting to me. The bike, I rode my bike all the time as a kid. I lived on it, and now running. So it was like the idea of all three of those things in a sport was pretty interesting to me. I probably gave myself excuses for years and years of why like I shouldn't do it or shouldn't train for it or I didn't have the time or the money, whatever it may be. I had people talk me out of it. A girl I was with at the time was like, "My dad almost drowned when he did a triathlon, so you shouldn't do one." And I like let that sink in my head and didn't do one. But once I read this book, I was like, "That's it. Enough's enough. I'm signing up." Basically, went home, looked, and I'm like, "What races are there in the Northeast?" And somehow decided that my first race was going to be Ironman 70.3 Connecticut.
Like the full
And
Ironman, right? That's the full.
no, half.
That's half. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
70.3.
Still, yeah.
Yeah. um, so signed up for that race. And the other like insane part about this, it's still to me, like thinking now, I'm like, I can't believe I decided to do this, but there was only 8 weeks till the race. So my idea was just, all right, start swimming, running, and buy a bike and start riding the bike and just figure it out. And at the time when I was going into the pool, I could barely swim a there and back lap in an LA fitness pool without having to stop. It was atrocious. My form was just horrible. I ended up linking up with my coaches who I use now, Radfam, Ray and Danielle, and they were like just starting their coaching thing. I was telling them what was going on, and they're like, "Look, listen, you're going to need help. We'll help you out." So they kind of coached me through it, and ended up getting to race day in 8 weeks. And I always say the swim was shortened because there was fog, so it wasn't a full 1.2 miles, but finished the entire race. Got my first triathlon and also first half Ironman under my belt that day, and just total life changing moment. Going from never doing one to just going out and getting that distance was definitely life changing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, let's pause there too, because I like want to unpack some of the things there. And I'm so grateful you shared like all the things of that story, because I love that's like what I want to like showcase on this podcast too, is like these crazy stories. And like even you're like, well, looking back, like now that we know what we know, it's like,
Hmm.
how is that even possible?
Yeah.
But I think that like there's so much beauty in that like when you don't know and you don't have all the pressure and expectations, like it can be so freeing. And when we don't have all the stress on us, like, so you think about doing anything in a stress state, you're just like, it's so much harder to do the thing, to communicate to
Yeah.
anything. Versus if you're just chilling, relaxed, and like having some fun about it, and just like, oh no, let's go see if this works.
Yeah.
Like, like you're so relaxed. I feel like you can do so much more. And, and it just like is so amazing to be like, you went from like not training at all, just working out, a little casually, really, like to a half Ironman in 8 weeks. And like literally, I just love how you're like, went and bought the bike and started swimming at my local gym. Like, and so what I took away from that, and I want people to like, take away too, is like, you just figured it out. You bought the bike, you signed up for the race, you just started doing the things versus like so many times we think we have to have all the things perfectly laid out and the perfect plan before we actually start the training and
Yeah.
sign up for the thing. And it's like, man, you'll figure it out. And you did. And I think there's just so much power in that and being like, stop, all of us, stop trying to overthink and overanalyze and overplan and just freaking do the thing. Sign up for the thing.
Absolutely. I am definitely like a planning person. Like my wife will laugh because like I'm the person that lays their stuff out for work for the next day. So when I get up, everything's kind of done and I have everything planned out and I try to figure out my day. Like 100% that's me. But that taking that into some of these things that you're trying to push yourself to do, it literally just bogs you down and like makes you freeze up because it's just so overwhelming, especially when it's something so new because there are so many unknowns. To get through that thought process without taking some sort of excuse and just going with it and saying, all right, I'm not going to do that, it's so hard. But where if you just like commit to it and say, I want to do this, I'm going to commit to it, and then figure it out along the way is pretty much the easiest way to go about it, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh my God, perfectly said. Easiest way to go about it. And and the way I think that you actually do it. Because if we put too much expectations or plans, I see this all the time with clients when they're like, if they're not hitting the plan that we made for that week perfectly, they're like, oh, I messed up and it's not working. And because we didn't hit it perfectly. And reality is they actually hit it like 80%, like,
Hmm.
although that's not where their brain is going.
Yeah.
But when people do that too much and beat themselves up, then they just never follow through. They're like, well, F it, it's not working.
Hmm.
Versus doing like what you just said, like just relax, just figure out, just start doing the things. And it's easier and you'll actually do it then because you're
Yeah.
not holding yourself to this perfect standard of like, I better have the watch, I better have all the things, I better hit these times. Like, yeah. So that's just so well said. Um, I also took away too that it really just also like you wanting to do the triathlon was like you said, like you were kind of around water growing up, you liked biking, you had recently got into running. So like it really made sense for you. Like it
Hmm.
sounded like something fun. And I just wanted to point that out too for folks because it's like I think a lot of the times, people may see you and be like, "Oh, I should do running or tries," or they see me and they're like, "Oh, I can't be a runner. I couldn't." And it's like, you don't have to be. Like, what did
No.
you love growing up? Did you like dancing? Did you like roller skating? Did you like skateboarding? Like, do what you love, and then you'll actually do it.
Yeah. It's funny because both being BPN ambassadors, that's a one thing I realize, especially with this community. It's like everybody's mindsets are very similar and everybody's challenging themselves and pushing themselves, but in their complete own way. Like they just had surf, like there's a female surfer that just joined the team. There's ultra runners, there's power lifters, there's like, I mean, you name it. There's just people all over doing all different sorts of things. And I think that's 100% true. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You could do kind of your own thing and enjoy it and challenge yourself in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you kind of mind out that you're like, well, I liked this when I was younger, and I'm kind of
Hmm.
doing this now, and I could see doing that. And it's like get curious. Like what
Yeah.
do a lot of times people are like, I don't even know. As adults, we kind of lose ourselves and we become parents or partners and get into our work and career, and you can kind of get lost in all that to be like, I don't even know what I'd like to do to move. And everybody, like, I love going to the gym myself. I like to lift too, but not everybody likes to do that.
No.
And there's such a like, I feel like when you start working out, you go to the gym kind of
Hmm.
a cult,
Test.
like
Yeah.
thing. It's like, how do you start moving and working out? You go to the gym. But it's like, there's a lot of people that don't like going to the gym. So I'm like,
100%.
don't go. Like, or
Yeah.
figure out how you can go and like it. So I just like that you mind out like what does sound fun to me, and that would
Hmm.
challenge me in that way.
One
Um,
thing I just wanted to add real quick to that
yeah.
is like just the big thing is like also not labeling yourself, because if I would have labeled myself and said I'm not a runner, I'm not a swimmer, like that limits a lot of people too. And I think especially as you start to get older, everybody kind of looks at like, oh, what did I do in high school? And that's all I kind of am capable of, because for some
Yeah.
reason we label ourselves in high school and carry that through. Um, no matter what you think you are, there's much more behind that, and you could do a lot more things than that. Because I would have never have put myself in any of these buckets, even going into college ever.
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. I that's so powerful too, because isn't that weird? I do feel like a lot of my clients are like, go back to like high school or college days. Well, in high school or college, I did this, and it's like, but you're 38 or 45 years old now. You can
Yeah.
do whatever the heck you want. We don't,
So
yeah,
true.
that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, so get out, be free.
Yep.
Um, okay, and then the other thing I just wanted to point out from that, because this is just a theme already, and this is also a theme for me, is you read the book. The first, it was the Running Man book, and
Yep.
then this time around you read the David Goggins book. That was really inspirational. And I'm a huge fan of whether it's a book, a podcast, an audio, like something that you're filling your brain with that allows you to start to explore what's possible and open ourselves up. And I read Born to Run. That was my gateway book, which it is for many ultra runners. But this is so great to see this too, to give people options to be like, sometimes that's all it takes is just
Hmm.
like getting curious and exploring, just reading a book or listening to a podcast where it clicks and you're like, all right, my putting a line in the sand, like this is what I'm going to do moving forward. And like you said, changed your life because you
Yeah.
read this book.
100%. And I'm like a big proponent too for being conscious of the things that you are putting in your head. So like, there's so much nonsense out there in terms of television, social media, all these different things. Like you could really go down these like rabbit holes that are just completely negative and not productive. And that was one of the things that a friend did suggest to me when I was going through that period of depression was change what you're consuming. Like, And that was what led me to reading these books. Was I said, all right, I'm done watching like Netflix and nonsense shows all the time. I'm done just playing video games, sitting around. Like I'm going to try to watch podcasts. And it started with like, I think I watched TED Talks was like the first thing I decided. I'm like, oh, this is productive. But all those things kind of led me down this rabbit hole of just trying to put good information in my head and trying to put things that I think are positive, productive, which eventually led me down that path.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I feel like that's one of the secrets. It's like one of the tools in my toolbox that I give to clients that I'm like every single day. I'm either reading something or listening to something that serves me in my goals. And I might take one thing away from it. It might just get me out of my own head and my own drama for that day
Mm-hmm.
to keep me moving forward towards the end line, or even for my mental health or to figure something out in life. And I can't say enough, and you just said it too, like to the power of that. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. They're like, "Oh, it's not a big deal," or I'm listening to this, like I need to relax and watch TV for a couple hours. And don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with a good movie
We
or
all do
show once in a
it.
while,
Absolutely.
But when that's all you do versus adding in the good stuff too, game changer. Total
Mm-hmm.
game changer.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ooh.
absolutely.
Okay. So I feel like at the end we might have to go through like a ramble of like what are some of the books or podcasts.
Absolutely.
So let's take us from there then. So you do this half Ironman.
Yeah.
Now what's next?
I had to do another one. So I ended up training. This was nice because then now I was like, all right, I can kind of understand the sport a little bit. So I trained really hard for the rest of that year and did Ironman 70.3 Atlantic City. Had amazing race. Definitely one with like a lot of challenges, and it was raining, it was hot, it was kind of a mixed bag, but learned a lot and got another race under my belt with a good time for what I was expecting. I think I was 5 hours, like 25 minutes, which for me was really, really good. Uh, Also, with both those races, I ended up making all world athlete. So it just like opened up my eyes of like 9, 10 months ago, I was no clue what I was doing. And now I remember talking to my physical therapist and he goes, oh, you're like a real triathlete now. And thinking about the time frame of where somebody called me a real triathlete to where I was, it just blew my mind to say like, wow, if I commit to something, I could actually do this. Um, and then unfortunately, right after that, it was COVID hit. And you talked about before, like kind of calendars of life and things like that. First half of COVID, great. I was like, okay, I can't go to the gym. All I could do is run. I was running a lot. Actually did the Goggins. I don't know if you know the 4x4x48 challenge he does.
I've I've heard of it for sure. I can't remember what exactly that means.
It's basically every 4 hours you run 4 miles for 48 hours. So it's 48 miles over 48 hours, which is very minimal sleep. Um, so I did that, and I was just up until that point, I was just running and take care of myself. And then after that, I have this happen to me a lot where I get these like accomplishments, and if I don't have something ahead of me to continue to train for, I go, "Oh, okay, I just did this great thing. Some rest is warranted," and it kind of like slowly just creeps down and down and down and down. And that's exactly what happened. Like after that challenge that I did, I kind of just slowly started teetering off. I wasn't running as much. I wasn't doing as much of the swimming, the biking, the running. The gym was closed, and I think what a lot of people happened during COVID is just it was just you kind of fell off, and 100% I fell off in 2020, and then I basically was on and off with running the gym, especially when everything back open, all the way until um, 2022. So I was still taking care of myself. Me and my wife got married. I was still like, oh, I want to be in good shape for my wedding. I was still doing the right things in general, but I wasn't really doing what I knew I was capable of. And then last summer, this was about August 2022, I knew I was just not pushing myself. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to something that I know always puts me in the right mood and listen to David Goggins again. So listen to the audiobook. I remember I was at work and all of a sudden, I've always talked about doing an ultra marathon, and I'm like, that's it. Enough's enough. I'm signing up. I'm doing a race. Logistically, I was like, I have to pick something that's close by. So I looked, and the really only race that was around me finishing up the year was the Tesla Hertz Ultra Marathon. And it was like 30 minutes from my house. But once again, it was 8 weeks away. And I was like, do I put this off to next year and continue to go down this constant next year, next year, next year thing with, or do I just say, again, screw it, I'm signing up and I'll figure it out. So I remember specifically at work texting my wife, and I'm like, I think I want to do an ultra marathon. She's like, all right, so do it. I'm like, but it's in 8 weeks. And she literally replied to me, she's like, you've done this before. You can do it. Just do it. So I think I still gave a couple rebuttals. I'm like, yeah, this is a little different. She's just like, just do it. So that night, I called my coaches and I said, I got a crazy idea. Hear me out. And they're like, just so you know, this is going to suck. The training is going to be miserable, but we think we can get you there. So I decided to sign up for the 50 miler and started plugging away for 8 weeks of just brutal training. I think the worst part about that was I was 6 days a week at work. I'm an air traffic controller, so I work a lot of shift work. Some days I'm going in at 6:30 in the morning. Some days I'm going in at 11 o'clock at night till the next morning. It's just afternoon shifts. It's a real mixed bag. And that was brutal training because I was just constantly going to work, coming home, running. It was just nonstop for 8 weeks. Brutal training, but got to race day and talk about a crazy experience. Running, it was like 51, 52 miles in the woods for the first time. Having, number one, I never ran a marathon distance before that until race day. So that was the first time. Actually, up until that point, I think the longest run I had ever ran was 15 miles. And before training was 15 miles. And then in training, I got up to, I think, about 26 miles, but never ran the actual full marathon distance. And then race day ended up getting 50, I think it was like 52 miles under my belt. Totally life-changing experience. And yet another one.
Oh, okay. So good. First off, I'm gonna like go backwards almost this time. I love that you shared about what life looked like then.
Mhm.
Because yeah, wouldn't it be great if we all just could work out and run and, not worry about our partners, our kids, work. But that's not real life. You were
Yeah.
working 6 days a week, shift changing. You have a wife, you have a house to take care of. Like, so it's like life didn't stop.
No.
You figured it out. You and I don't know about you, I'd be curious on thoughts on this too, is like I do always feel like when I am signed up for a race or have some kind of event or challenge, and you kind of even spoke to that, or with the COVID thing, it's like, okay, when you didn't have something on your calendar, it was kind of hard to like stay consistent there. But it's like when you put something on your calendar and you sign up for it, it's like you figure that shit out real
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
100%. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like you have no choice. It's like I made this commitment, even if it's just like the fact that you put your name on the list of people running this race. Like something about like I do not want to see like did not start on my name on any website if I put my name to sign up. I don't know. It's just kind of my thing.
Yeah. I just there's so much freaking power in it. I think you would say I say that like almost any of us in race athlete. And I just like think for people to like open their eyes up, and even it's like you weren't prepared for this necessarily. Like it's you just said yes and figured it out. And I actually feel like there's a quote you can take away from this podcast, Bobby. You said something like, screw it, I'm signing up, I'm running an ultra. Like, and it's like, yeah, like, you know what? I think we're all take ourselves a little too seriously and keep putting it off for next year or
Mhm.
the next season or when the kids are out of school. But then when the kids are in school, like, there's just so many excuses and reasons we can put out there. And it's like, just say screw it and do it.
Yeah, and like I actually wrote this stuff down because just to put it into perspective for people, because I remember saying this to my wife at the time, where I was like, you do realize you're in better running shape than me right now to run this ultra before I started the training. And like I just wanted to say that because I was like, I'm gonna do this and I want her to see like I'm here, you're here. If I can do it, like you could do it. But I didn't run. So from October 21st, 2021 to April 24th, 2022, I did not run. Not a single run. And then in 2022, and I also want to say I'm not like condoning like, oh, this is how you should do it. Like there's like training longer, doing the right thing, you're going to get more, you're going to perform better. There's a lot to be said for that, but this was just my situation. I had a total of 36 runs. I don't know. Can you hear my dog barking?
I can, but it's okay.
Okay,
This
sorry
this
about
is real life. No, it's okay.
that. So then total distance was 57.9 miles over in 2022 when I started training. The average distance was 1.6 miles, and my longest run was 5.3 miles for 2023 before I started training. And then 8 weeks later, I just trained my ass off and did a 50 miler.
Oh,
So it's like, you gotta like, I just want to put that into perspective for people
yes.
because it wasn't like I was like in great running shape and decided to do this. I was far from it.
Oh my God. I am so glad you shared that because that to me, I like it just allows people to see what's possible. Like, like truly, 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 truly. Like anything is possible. And like you said earlier, we put the limitations on ourselves
Mm-hmm.
where we're like, well, I can't do that. I haven't been running for weeks or months or years. Forget about that. Believe in what you can do and what you want to do from whatever point moving forward. And this is like it's like I feel like when we can all see an example, like David Goggins was for you, he's been
Yeah.
for me. Like when we start to see like, oh, like you did that, like, well, then maybe that is possible for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually to that, I kind of made a note here. I'm curious, is there anything that you feel like, because like you were like, I'm gonna do this. Like you were a little, like nervous. You checked in with the
Definitely.
wife, like got the coaches, in on board, but you went for it. Like, and you've done this more than once then. Like, so what do you think it is that has you believing that you could do something like this?
You know, I think obviously the second time around, it was having done it before, kind of convinced me that okay, this is possible. And with the running, my thing was okay, this isn't technical. Where like the Ironman felt more technical, the run, the bike, all that stuff. This is just I just got to get out and run. Um, you know, I've never really truly thought about that. Like, what makes me think that I can do these things. And I don't know if it's that I've just constantly had these little moments maybe in my life. Like even looking back on it now that we're talking about it, my uh when I joined the football team, I was not like never played football. My friend just convinced me to join the team and it just happened that during practice somebody was messing up a lot and the coach basically just grabbed me and was like, "All right, you're playing." At the time I was a little heavier, so you're playing center, you're taking over because this guy's messing up. It's you. And he just like grabbed me because I was the closest person to him. And I was like, okay, this is going to be like a one moment thing. I'm not actually going to play. And, but I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. And I ended up starting that year. And then I ended up being one of the starters through most of my high school career. So it was like, I feel like there were just constantly these moments in my life that I didn't really know if I could do it, but I kind of got thrown into things. And then I was like, all right, if I'm thrown into this, I'm going to commit. I'm going to put everything I got into this. And it kind of always paid off. So I think it just enough of that positive reinforcement has me realizing like if I put my mind to something, if I really, really work hard, like I'll figure it out. I'll get it done.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I want to like just put that in like a little bag and like give that as a gift for everybody. Like take that and like everyone use that because I really feel like so many of the times like either one we don't throw ourselves into that situation like as adults. It
Mhm.
feels too we're too safe and comfortable where we're at and have so many limiting beliefs as we just get older and older And then we might not have people in our lives. You had a coach, you've had your wife and other coaches to put you in those situations where then we can be like, holy crap, I can actually do this and I can do it
Yeah.
actually really damn good. And so actually that makes me even think like you've mentioned, so you've this coach, your wife, the coaches, the running coaches that you use, like the support. You have people in your life, I hear, that really lift you, like raise you up to step into what's possible and to do more than you think you can and to support you in like crazy endeavors.
Yeah.
Like how important do you think that is to have that?
I mean, it's funny because like we're talking about this stuff, and these are some of these things I've never really sat and thought about. But as we're going through it, like looking through my life and looking through periods of time where like different people were surrounding me, I was either doing great things for myself or I was not, and I was like limiting myself. And like when I was talking about the girlfriend I had at the time telling me her dad almost drowned and talking me out of doing things, and what I accomplished during that time where I was surrounded by her was really not nothing. And then, since I've been with my wife, it's like the amount of things that she's encouraged me to do. Like you said, the football coach, it's that one coach that I had through my whole entire high school career was, I can think of countless times where he had pulled me aside and I think he might have seen like frustration in me and said like, look, just keep putting in the work. If you keep putting in the work, you don't know what's going to happen. It might work out. And having people around you that are going to, like you said, lift you up is just so underrated. I think everybody always says the cliche, like, oh, you're the sum of the, five or whatever, how many people you surround yourself with. But it is so incredibly true because it's so easy to have the people around you talk you out of doing something that you want to do. And it's also very, very easy for the people around you to convince you to do something that you're thinking about doing. Um, so it's funny that you bring that up because it's something I really never thought about, but now thinking about it, there's no way I would have done any of the things I've done throughout my entire life if it wasn't for that one, two, three, four people that were around me that gave me that extra push and said, like, we're here, we believe in you. You better believe in yourself, do it. So
Oh my
glad you brought that
gosh.
up.
Yes, I'm so glad too. Like just tying that together, I
Yeah.
can, and just you walking us through that, I'm like, oh, I can see that too with the people who were in my life at that time, what I was doing totally correlated.
Yeah.
Like I got goosebumps a little bit actually when you were talking about like the difference that it made.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's like I don't care what the cliche like that, it is real. Like
Hmm.
and I know that too, even like once I hired my first coach for business and even my running coaches that I've had before, like I would not be where I am today without their support and their belief in me or them showing me what's possible through their experiences. It's like without that, it's so easy for us to just be like, oh, I shouldn't do this. Oh, that's not possible. Like, or that's scary. Or them like, and our friends and family love us, but they also want us to be safe and be
Oh, yeah.
protected. And like, so oh man, I'm so glad like everyone to like hear that and be like, if you don't have that, like explore that. Like get curious about like where you can get that support. I know too, I don't know if you've run with a lot of groups, but for me, that's always been running groups too. Not as much these days, just because where my life is at, I just kind of have to figure out that run when I get the chance. But when I first moved to Asheville and when I first got into ultra running, oh my God, I was like hitting up all the group runs, all the ultra races, like getting in with all the groups. So I could be around other people to be like, oh, wait, what? You did that race and like that time and this? And it was so empowering. So, so powerful.
Yeah. I haven't gotten into a ton of the group stuff, and I think a lot of that's just due to kind of like working shift work and it being a little difficult to be a part of those groups. Um, but for me, a big piece is like just even social media. And it's again that same thing is like you could choose to sit on the couch and watch some nonsense Netflix show, or you can watch something educational or that's going to help you. Same thing with social media. Like you could choose to go on social media and connect with people that are just nonsense. And again, like I said, yeah, we do watch funny videos and dog videos, things like that. But there's this whole other community of people that are doing these great things. And I mean, the amount of people that I've connected with on social media and built like kind of this little virtual friend group that is kind of everybody pushing each other and just sharing their stories and struggles. It's that's another really really great tool to use in my opinion if you find that you don't have the ability to find a local in-person community. Is, clean your social media up and try to find some people that are doing what you want to do.
That is a great idea. Like, and a great shift too, right? It's like we all are on it. And yeah, okay, have the like local friends and family and some fun stuff, but also there's this whole other opportunity for connections. And I feel like you I mean even with us connecting, and then I find so many people and they may be like so much bigger, but I've reached out and I'll DM them and be like, "Hey, like, love what you're doing," or "saw you on a podcast," or this, that. And majority of the times they respond back. And
100%.
and so it's like, yeah, put yourself out there and like find those folks that can support you or that you aspire to be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. So I'm curious from this 50 miler then. So you do this. What are some of the lessons that you did learn and like took away from that? Or from the whole
uh
process even, like could be the training or the actual race. Yeah.
yeah. So the biggest thing that I really really like kind of solidified in my mind, I kind of knew it before, but it was like really really now ingrained in my head, was just the importance of taking care of your body and making sure I was stretching, making sure I was going to physical therapy, making sure I was icing. Um, I completely stopped drinking because I was like, my body's going to be going through enough. Like, I don't think my body can handle drinking here and there, even like once in a while, and doing this. So I just completely went like, I need to take care of my body at this point. And that was huge because I saw how much better I was performing and my body was recovering when I was really truly taking care of it in all aspects. The one thing I will say, sleep was where I was definitely lacking, but other than that, everything else I was getting accomplished. Um, the other thing that was kind of a rough lesson for me was really the importance of time management and having such a cramped schedule. And I'm sure you know, excuse me, I'm sure you know from ultra training, it's like ultra workouts, it's not like, oh, I'm going out for a 20-minute run. Like sometimes it's like, hey, I'm going out for a run. I'll see you in 3.5, 4 hours. And trying to like, there had been moments where I was like, all right, I'm getting out of work in the morning. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna have my pre-meal, hydrate, get what I gotta get in, get ready, go for a run, and then after the run, I have to go here, and then after here, I have to go here, and it was just like time crunching so much and not creating any room for error. Uh, and it led to a couple situations where I didn't get to show up to things that I had said I was going to show up to because I was so committed to the run and I was so committed to this goal that I let things outside of that kind of fall to the wayside. And I was definitely not happy with myself about that and had apologized to those people because I was like, I screwed up. I cut things too close. I didn't allow that margin for error. And it also just added just total undue stress for me because I was committing to things that I probably couldn't have committed to. And I was just trying to cram too many things in there at once. So that was a huge lesson for me of just, giving yourself margin, like area for error, and getting comfortable with not committing to every little thing that happens. And especially when you have a big goal ahead, like sometimes you just got to prioritize things. And the people around you that understand that are going to be okay with you saying, hey, I can't make this because this is what I'm doing right now. So that was a huge lesson. And then I think the last lesson I would say is just the mindset aspect of it. I could go on and on about things that went on in my head during that race from the very, very start to the very, very end. But the my shift in mindset constantly affected how my run performance was. So if I was in a good mindset, my run was going great. I had my fourth lap where my mind just went total in the wrong direction, and it was horrible, to the point where it was even just like my stomach was starting to bother me, and I never had stomach issues ever on any runs. Just like everything was falling apart. And then the minute my mind came back, everything resolved itself. So it was just, I think that would be the last thing, is just how important your mind is to keeping yourself on track in these runs.
Oh my gosh, I would agree 100%, and not even just like with on track for the runs, but like with for life. Like
Yeah.
our thoughts create our reality literally. Like it's and this is like a part of like I do mindset coaching within like actual tangible things, and it's like it could be raining. I always like to give like an example. It's like it could be raining out. My thoughts might be like, "Oh my gosh, like it's so cool and feels great outside. I'm going to go for a run." The same rain could cause somebody else's thoughts to be like, "Oh my god, it's miserable out. There's no way I could go run in this," right?
Hmm.
The fact is it's raining, but we all get to choose our thoughts about
Yeah.
what's going on. And so for you, it's like and that it's just so powerful. I'm glad you shared that. So I'm just curious on that though. What allowed you to bring your thoughts back? Like when they dipped down and it was like you weren't thinking good thoughts, like, and maybe even what were some of those and what brought you back?
So the original bad thought. So this was a loop race. So there was five. You did five loops, and everything in the beginning was going pretty much according to plan. When I had come in from the third loop to go out for the fourth loop, I this was my first ultra, so my whole taking my I'm gonna change my socks, I'm gonna re up on my nutrition, all these things was just like it was a slow process, and I took a lot of time to get back out on the course. I think I took like 10-15 minutes. And as I got back out on the course, I started realizing based on time, my original goal was to go sub 10 hours. And I was like, this is just not happening. It's just not going to happen based on where I'm at right now. And that's what kind of started leading me down that rabbit hole of, all right, here goes my goal. This was something I really wanted to do. I wanted to get this time. That's not happening. Then I started getting frustrated because it was like, well, this was controllable because I just wasted so much time, like being slow when I got back to the kind of base camp and set up. And it just caused this like spiral. Um, like to the point where I would look at my watch and my heart rate was where my heart rate was supposed to be, but my pace was not where my pace was. Um, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control. And it just got so in my head the whole time, just getting so frustrated because I was running slower. All my checkpoints in my head were going further, felt like they were further away. So now I'm like, why is it taking me so long to get to this point that I normally get to? And it was just completely spiraled out of control to the point where even my wife and my one coach were at the kind of base camp start finish, and they were getting nervous because they were like, what happened? Like he was going so well, and all of a sudden it was just this drop off, and they started getting nervous because they didn't know where I was and why I was taking so much longer. Um, when I got back there, and this is again kind of just comes to having good people around you, they said, I remember them saying, they're like, you came in and you definitely looked off. You looked a little like kind of spaced out, but not like physically where like, oh man, he's really beat up. It was just like, all right, he looks like he's his head's a little out of it right now. And my coach was like, all right, walk me through where we're at right now. Walk me through the race. Walk me through what we got. Excuse me. Walk me through what we've got done. So I started kind of basically talking through what was going in my head. And that's where they started not necessarily just giving you like, oh, you got this, like forcing me to like say and think about what's going on. And they're like, you're still running, right? Like you haven't stopped and walked. I'm like, I'm still running. Okay, cool. We're still running. Nice, good. Your feet? How are your feet? My feet are fine. Okay, good. Feet are good. How's your nutrition? Everything working well? Yeah, my nutrition's good. Okay, good, good. And just like these constant, like this is working, this is working, this is working. We're doing good, right? All right, we got one lap left. Like everything has pretty much gone well. This last lap, you had a little hiccup. but these are all things that went really, really well. You got one more lap, get out there and just get it done. And having them like basically force me to go through these things in my head and start going through this checklist of positives, I'm like, all right, I didn't get the time I wanted. I'm not going to get the time I wanted. So what? These are all the things that have pretty much gone exactly how I expected it to go. I got one more lap. Let's just go out and get it done.
Oh, so good. That is like the power of coaching.
Yeah,
It's
it's so true.
so amazing. So it's like having support as far as like your wife and these people around you that are supportive, but then it's like then there's that also that next level layer of like professional, like a coach who is there to
Hmm.
stand for what's possible for you, even when you, especially when you don't believe in it, or you
Yeah,
start to go down that, and it's like, oh, just let me just pull you back up here.
yeah,
um so good, so good. um I wanted to touch on the other lessons you shared too. I know we're kind of getting close here, but the time management and prioritizing things there, that's such a great lesson because I do feel like when I choose my races too, I actually didn't do a big race last year, and I had done my 100 miler the year before. So when I know when I'm going into like a big training season, like that's going to be my Sunday, basically. Like that's my focus. And I didn't want to do that last year. I was more focused on my business. I wanted to actually have normal 20-minute to an hour workouts,
yeah.
like 4 times a week. I don't know. And so I chose that intentionally and held the space for that. And at the same time, when it's like race time, it's like, all right, it is now the priority. So no, these other things will not get done. I probably won't drink as much. I don't want to go out. Like, and it's just, it's cool to see like life comes in seasons like that too, where we're like, we get to choose like how we want to prioritize our time. And I think that's good to like hear how that actually looks, because the that idea of balance is like, there is balance, but sometimes in life we have to choose. And
Hmm.
like that made me even think, like with when I coach people for weight loss, or anybody has any kind of like a health fitness goal, and it's maybe not quite a race yet, but it's like, yeah, you have to choose to make some time for yourself to simply get a workout in,
Yeah.
or choose to, you know, go get some healthier grocery stores, or stop at the Subway versus the McDonald's. Like
Hmm.
you have to make it a priority and put the time and effort there. It doesn't mean it's always going to be so heavy and, something like that for the next 5 years. You're going to be spending all your time meal planning,
Yeah.
and, it's like, no, it's just a season where it's going to be a little bit harder to put in that effort,
Hmm.
but it's so worth it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just even look at it like from a non-fitness perspective. Me and my wife just bought a house at the end of last year, and I mean, it consumed us for probably about 2, 3 months, and it was the priority over everything. Where even my working out, all those things kind of went to the wayside because this was the priority, and I realized that if we were going to get what we need accomplished with this house, because we had a lot of like fixing up to do in the time frame that we wanted, there were sacrifices and things that had to be done. Not going and hanging out with friends on a Friday night, sitting and staying up till 1 in the morning, painting,
Yeah.
things like that. So, like I said, there's just seasons in life, and it's that making those conscious choices, but making sure that your choices are in line with what your true goals are, and not allowing your choices to become maybe what's the easy thing versus what you really truly want.
Oh, so well said. So well said. I think too many times too, people are like, well, I have got to do the new house thing, and then I really want to do this race thing, and then I want to I've got a baby, like whatever. It's like, and it's like, okay, like we all get to do the things, but yes, you do have to choose sometimes the seasons, like, and like you said, just be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Oh gosh. Okay. What was, I made a note here, but now I can't read my own writing. Your first lesson was next level something. Do you remember? Next level. Oh, I mean, next level care. That was my note
Yeah.
because you said you really had to like take care of yourself um, in these extra ways, like where the PT, the stretching, the no drinking. And that just, I just wanted to like kind of tie a bow on that one too for people to be like, yeah, same thing like we were just talking about. When you're in that season, you have a
Hmm.
goal. Yeah, you may have to like draw the line of like, what's that next level care for yourself to accomplish your goal? Or, or even if it's not the fitness goal, like how do you make in that extra time like you did for the house? You say no
Hmm.
to going out with the friends on Friday and Sundays so you can accomplish this goal. And I think just like recognizing that for folks is like that just that next level, I feel like care that you put in, like that thought, like how could, if you're working towards a goal, put in that next level care towards
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. Like for me, it was the stretching. I think with that race was huge. Was, going to physical therapy, like fairly easy, going once or twice a week. Somebody stretching you and, breaking up soreness in your muscles. It's not very demanding. But to come home, like I could think about, excuse me, think about I'd work like 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. and I'd come home and the last thing I want to do is sit there and stretch for an hour. But I would force myself and say, all right, if I don't do this, either A, probably best worst case scenario is the goal doesn't get accomplished. Worst case scenario, I get injured and this becomes something that I have to really deal with. But intentionally deciding, all right, this is something that I have to do, like you said, to do that next level care. I have to sit here and stretch for an hour, as much as it sucks, as much as I don't want to do it, because this is just part of what you have to do to take you to that next level.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you shared that actual example too, because I feel like so many people can relate to that. I even was just relating there where I'm like, I'm actually excited about speed work this in this season in this race. But I normally am not like my first 100 miler, and in general, I am not a speed work type of girl. Like I just like to run long and slow and do my thing. But normally that would be or like foam rolling, like my hand is raised. I'm like I don't want to do it. I'm really trying to
Not
do
fun.
it. But there are things already in this season of training where I'm like, all right, like let's go. Like if you're doing the thing, these are some things you are doing along with it that are uncomfortable, that don't feel that great. Like I've had multiple long runs the last 2 weekends where it's just kind of crappy weather. I think that's been all over. Like we're all like,
Yeah.
hello, spring. Are you
What's going on?
are you gonna come warm up anytime soon? And but I was like, doesn't matter. Like your ass is running 14 miles. Like find the way you can make it the most fun you can and
Yeah.
figure it out. But there wasn't an option. And so when you have that commitment, that race, and that next level care, that's what you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And believe me, I'm like I will say, and anybody that knows me, especially growing up, one of the biggest procrastinators in the world. In the world, I'm the person you can ask my wife. I'll hit snooze 100,000 times before I get up in the morning. So but it's sometimes it's just like you said before, drawing that line. Like, all right, I may hit snooze 5 times this morning. I may have set my alarm for 6:30 and I got up at 7. But there's a line that's drawn that's like, all right, this is where I will not allow myself to basically, let myself fall short.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, that's good there too. Cause it's like there is a little leeway in it. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, like maybe my 14 miles is on the trail because that's what sounds more fun to me that day versus on the road.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, okay, you give yourself, all right, if you need to take a nap or sleep in for 30 more minutes, that's okay, but we're still going to do the thing.
Yeah.
Um, okay, amazing. Bobby, I feel like we've like dug into so much. Okay, is there anything next on the docket right now or
So talking about just kind of cycles of life, I'm like training at work right now, and it's just super super demanding. So it's like 6 days a week, a lot of training, a lot of going on, a lot of studying. Um, so with that being said, I have that until probably about September. So decided I was very close to signing up to do 70.3 in New York, the first one ever. And I decided that it was that lesson of I'm going to be juggling too many things and it's going to impact my work too much. So decided not to do that. But me and my coaches are working right now to probably do 100K at the end of the year, probably sometime maybe October, November-ish time frame. So that's really the only true plan. Uh, Beginning of the year, I kind of wanted to go back to my old bodybuilding type of phase and was trying to see like my lifts, how like heavy I can get my lifts, and did a little bit of bulk. So right now I'm just trying to get my um, weight back in check, trying to get my baseline fitness back up,
Hmm.
and then I'll do some cross training and then dive into training for the 100K.
Awesome. Okay, that's exciting. And I love that. Oh my God, you're so real, Bobby, like and authentic about all this that you're sharing. It's like this is real life, y'all. Like
Yeah,
we
we're not
can't
all professionals.
we're not, like and it's so important to share that because all of us, everyone has something like that. That's some year or every other year. So it's and I like that was my last year too. It was like I was like I cannot see myself doing all the things. Something's got to
Hmm.
give. And I think just that awareness is so powerful. Like if people take that away, it's like check in with yourself. Like what is realistic to really
Yeah.
do there? Um okay, so great. We'll have to so where can everyone follow and find you along this journey?
Um, at Path, PATH, two, the number two, and Iron. That's my Instagram account. That's kind of where I post everything. Uh, I kind of started a little YouTube channel where I posted actually my whole training process from that 50 milers on there. So if you search YouTube / I think Path to Iron, same thing. I have like a little, I think it's like 5-part series kind of filming through that. And then eventually, when I have the time, I'm going to start working through doing some like small podcasts and things like that. And if you ever want to come on, you're more than welcome.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, great. Now everyone knows we can start to follow along there. Bobby, is there anything that I haven't asked that you want to share?
I just think it's everything in life is just sometimes trying to take a step back and really put things into perspective and just asking yourself those really, really tough questions is like we were just talking about. Is it that I don't have the time and I maybe shouldn't do this because I have to keep my priorities in check? Or is it that I do have the time and I'm scared and I'm afraid and I'm giving myself excuses like things that I did for years before I did some of these things? But sometimes it's just you have to take a step back and you have to just really, truly talk to yourself and be honest with yourself with the situation that's going on. And sometimes it means that's going to push you to the next level. Sometimes it means it's going to pull you back and say, "All right, look, listen, we have higher priorities. Let's take care of these things before we go and accomplish some stuff." So just try to be as honest with yourself as possible and take a step back every now and then.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Such a good message. Bobby, thank you so much for being on.
Thank
This is
you.
so great.
Oh, thank you. Like I said before, you had me thinking about stuff that I had never thought about. So this was great for me as well.
Oh, good. I know everyone's going to love it. So many nuggets. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.